During the NAIC, I hosted a bunch of friends to come together and play some Pokemon. I thought this would be a great chance to get some practice in for Yokohama whilst also watching a fantastic live stream across the weekend, and we thought what better way to challenge ourselves and have a bit of fun was going to be having a double elimination bracket running as the tournament was going on. So we pitted together what we thought were the 7 best decks at the time, as well as throwing in United Wings, which have been doing well on day 1 of the NAIC stream, to fight it out against each other for a mystery prize. Now, I will say that this was a party atmosphere. There probably are going to be some mistakes on some of these streams. We were also, watching the stream along, having a good time, and probably not putting our all into some of these games. So if there are going to be mistakes, I'm going to try and highlight them in commentary, but it's just going to be one of those things. This isn't necessarily the highest standard of play. It's just something we did for fun over the weekend. Cube Koga is always in the link in the description below, where I will be trying to have even more up-to-date lists than the ones possibly even played in these tournaments. So that's always the best place to check out our lists. Now let's get into some games. So we are continuing with our round 1 games. We have on the left Connor, who is going to be playing Arceus Giratina, and on the right side with the black sleeves is going to be Tamao with his version of Turbo Lost Box, which is quite a supporter heavy one. I think it's playing double Clara in there as well, so quite a few supporters in there. It looks like it's a Arceus V start for Connor and a Cramorant start for Tamao. Instantly is able to Hisuian Heavy Ball and check through those prize cards, which is looking pretty nice. Actually, some horrific prizes. Double Chorus is something you never want to see as a Lost Zone player, so some bad news early for Tamao, and nothing to get either from Hisuian. Fortunately, though, does have a Nest Ball available, so can begin to get some Flower Selects rolling. I at least saw energy in that hand, so Tamao can pay Retreat and get at least one selecting in. The good news is, you're against an Arceus deck, so you're not going to be facing down too much pressure. So that's at least something going for you. Tamao has a Switch card that he's going to elect to go for first here. Hits VIP Pass and a Manaphy, which is a dead card in the matchup. So that's an easy choice and can now get a couple more Pokemon into play. Because they spent the Switch cards rather than energy, this VIP Pass gets even better because they can now concealed cards for a guaranteed 2 cards, not having to choose which one to take from a flower selecting. So that's a pretty nice heads-up call there. And getting the high roll of VIP off the top is always a good deal here. So we will see the concealed cards now for Tamao. 2 fresh ones, now gets a Water Energy. Also has an Escape Rope, and I think a Dragonite came to hand as well. Now is debating, I think, more Switch cards and a Lightning Energy. You're fairly free to just attach for turn onto Dragonite here, because you know that an Arc player is typically trying to judge and Iono resources away from Tamao in the matchup. So I actually really like attaching to a Dragonite this turn, and that's what we are going to see. The Water makes the most sense because then you can gate the 2 remaining cards out. So a pretty good turn 1 overall from Tamao there, and is sat on not too bad of a hand either. Has a 4-card hand size, which is pretty par for the course, really. As Connor has a pretty good opening themselves, is able to get Bidoof down, has Nest Ball. Obviously, going second, a double Turbo Energy is one of the highest priority things you can look for, but it's not necessarily something you always need to have. I don't think there's many energy in the hand at all, actually, for Connor right now. He might be forced into a judge just from his own end. He's actually going to thin Ultra Ball and Cleansing Gloves here, just to get a backup Arceus V down. Seeing the threat of Dragonite definitely makes sense, and can judge for 4 cards here. So any energy attachment is going to be massive here. If he rolls into double Turbo Energy, that's amazing. Because that would be an easy way to power up Giratina and start threatening Tamao's Dragonite a little bit more cleanly. But if it is just a basic energy, I imagine it just goes to the bench and passes. We do see a V-Guard energy. Dragonite can still hit 250. I actually much prefer the attachment of V-Guard on the bench here. I think that's the safer option. Because now, if Tamao is able to spike his way to enough cards in the Lost Zone, he could just be knocking out Connor's only energy, and because it's a special energy, you wouldn't even be able to Starbirth for Raihan. So, a bit of a risk from Connor here. Let's see if Tamao can punish. Not much going on in the hand from Flower Selecting. Can concealed cards, though. A little bit awkward because it's a Lightning Energy. You can see the debate here, whether to conceal first or just play an Escape Rope. You actually would really like to go through the active Pokemon, which is the issue here. As it happens, looks like the Rope is going to be the option eventually for Tamao here. So Connor gets a big break where he can just send up the other Arceus now, which is really helpful for him. As we see the next Flower Selecting, it's going to be a VIP. That's an easy choice. 2 hit the Lost Zone. Unfortunately, the dice is just out of shot for counting up the lost zone. We're at least at 4, though, right? We saw 2 selects this and last turn. Then we see the concealed cards and does find a chorus, which is massive for Tamao. Again, only 2 in the deck right now. I imagine the Power Pad is a really high priority card for him as well, just because of his prize cards, making this decision possibly a little more difficult. Looks like just a ton of resources. Rod in there, Bull Search in there. Yeah, it's going to have to be a Nest and a Super Rod. Was able to find a Switch cart, though. It looks like we're at 6 in the Lost Zone, with just 1 dice available right now. So, unfortunately, it's going to just be a pass here. Had the option to Switch cart in and swing with a Cram, but didn't really value the 110 too much on the active Arc, which does seem reasonable. Connor could always just evolve out of that damage, and it would kind of just be wasted in a way. So, I don't mind just leaving the Confei active here. Connor is once again going for a Judge, is able to get his V-Star developed before that, so really he's just doing this for the disruption. We know Tamao had an over 8 card hand, and Connor is able to find the double turbo before the Starbirth, which is excellent. I have to imagine he's just going for a switch here, and probably just Bibarrel at this stage as well. That would be probably my selection, possibly Ultra Ball if he has some easy fodder to make his Bibarrel an easier search. This is looking like a really ideal opener. Looks like went for the Path of the Peak over the Bibarrel here. I kind of like the option of Bib, depending on what supporters he has access to. Is just going to power up the Giratina in the back. Definitely makes sense to challenge Tamao's Dragonite. So that's exceptional. I understand the path, of course. It's shutting down the Greninja at the same time, hurting Tamao's outs that little bit more. And it's going to be really tough for Tamao in this situation. He has 1 Colress remaining in the deck. I think he just plays Claras and Bosses at a 2 count of each. So it's just really rough for him, to be honest with you, at this stage. Let's see how he can get out of this. He does still have his Forest Seal Stones as well, though, so they are possibly some of the outs that are going to help him get something done this turn. I believe he's only 1 selecting away from 7. So if he is able to access Gate, he could still be in a decent position here. Definitely taking his time over this flower selecting. I know there's a Boss's Orders in hand. Maybe there's a way you make a sort of panic play here. Yeah, and Connor's hand is not good. He's holding on to Boss, Grass, and I think it was something else that wasn't a draw supporter, so I really think the Bibarrel was the safer option than the Path in this instance, just from his end. But Tamao definitely agonizing over this choice. It's going to be a Lightning Energy that finds its way into the Lost Zone. He's most likely just playing 2 copies. We're going to see the attachment, and possibly debating the retreat into Cram here for a hit. Possibly even just bossing up the Giratina and hitting that with Cram makes some sense. If you're really just trying to stall, you can just go for the Arceus V. Yeah, looks like he's going for the sort of defensive option here, trying to get some free value with only a low card hand size for Connor here. Who I believe top decks... Was that a top deck of Rope? No, it looks like it's a tool card. It's going to be... Oh, it's the Box of Disaster that Connor's playing. Actually, so his last card in hand was the Bibarrel, sorry, the Ultra Ball, so that's why he was able to go for the Path here. So that's really nice. It opens up his hand quite a lot. He's holding on to Boss's Orders, and we'll get a fresh 4 cards here, looking for double turbos, switches and ropes to get in a good position here. Rope would actually be ideal, I think. You'd much rather take out anything but the Cramorant right now. Can at least evolve into V-Star, so it's not the best outcome for him, but is at least not just going to get knocked out by a Spit Innocently next turn. We're actually going to see the Squovit come down. It's actually a little bit awkward, especially if you're passing here, because then you actually make Tamao's next Spit Innocently really good damage, right? Because you'd put the Arc down to 220, and then you'd have the Squovit plus Arc 3 prize knockout, and then you could also go for a Bibarrel KO with Sableye as well, so... I actually don't really like going for the Nest Stash there too much, especially because you know that Tamao could get to 10 with a Flower Selecting and Chorus. He could just then take out the Bibarrel, and with a 1-card hand, sure, you can come back and hit with Arc, but then you're just really not in a position where you can be Ionoing away the Lost Zone player at that stage in the game. So I wasn't a huge fan of the Squovit there. As it happens, no punishment from Tamao. He just does go for that Spin Innocently. As we said, though, because there is Squovit now on board, and just another pass from Connor, really rough, that no help from his Industrious Incisors there. Pretty ugly. So now Tamao has another decision on his hands. Does have Switch Cart and Energy. Could go for another Selecting to get to 8, and then if he high rolls like a Colress or something, or a Gate, he could try and get into a Dragonite attack. But isn't really sat on the goods right now and is able to take the knockout, knowing that he has 2 Chorus in the prizes, and I think he whiffed them as well, which really, really hurts him. Both these players having a bit of misfortune during this series, it looks like. Looks like Connor's opened up Raihan for himself now. Is going to throw an additional energy onto the active, but is mostly doing this for a search on his own end by the looks of things. So now with 5 in the hand. We see a V-Guard energy to the Giratina as well. So kind of really just loading up on energy cards here before seeing a fresh hand. Squove it into Bib. He's got his stadium established. He's got a ton of energy established. He's got his engine established. He's really just trying to be a problem for Tamao at this stage. And I think he was able to cycle into Iono for next turn as well, which is looking pretty reasonable for him. Because he's played a couple Judge early, so it's mostly Raihans remaining. Roxanne hitting the Lost Zone for Tamao here. And yes, super unlucky that he wasn't able to hit the Chorus to get him to 10 this turn. To have a better option. But looks like he will be Clara for the Lightning and the Water Energy. As well as a Cram coming back. There's a Lost Vacuum in here. That's going to get rid of Path and VIP, getting him to 9. Does open up Greninja for some draws as well. It's going to turn attached to the Dragonites. We will see the Cram come down. We will see the Switch Cart. So coming into the Dragonite basically forces Connor to pay retreat and go into the Giratina and start spending some energy. But is going to get a real meaningful chunk onto this arc. With the Path removed, he can concealed cards. I think he drew into the Forest Sealstone, which he certainly might be debating about how many Vs he has remaining in the deck, how many he actually wants to put down into play, or whether or not he should use this Forest Sealstone now. But instead is just going to hit for the 230 with the V-Guard energy, and then detonating his own bench there. Connor, realizing that he is going to be retreating this arc, is going to just attach again here before using Iono. Once again, continually just pressurizing Tamao, throwing his hand size down, throwing him off. It's always really good to do this against Lost Zone players because they're always cherry-picking the good cards in their hand. So even if their hand size isn't that large, you know they're keeping the good stuff. And naturally, Connor is going to go into the Giratina to sweep up this Dragonite knockout in one attack. And with all the energy scattered around his board, he can do this pretty freely. Interestingly, he keeps the grass energy on the barrel, which might be a small opening for Tamao if he can make something come together. Don't really see a reason to keep the energy on barrel here. But hey-ho. The Tina's still ready to fire again, and the arc isn't far away either. Tamao, I think with this, is able to gate before anything else, but with this Flower Select, we'll finally get to 10, so we'll see some Lost Mine action most likely here. Probably needs to combine it with some Gust or some Disruption of some sort if he's going to get anything done here. Because Connor is just 2 attacks away. The arc is pretty well set up, but it's whether Tamao can finish off the arc, get enough, well, I guess with enough damage on the arc, and again, it comes back to this Squove It. Tamao's actually 2 turns away just with Lost Mines, right? He could just Lost Mine, finish off arc, and Squove It, and then Barrel can also get knocked out with Lost Mine, so I think that early Squove It benching from Connor is actually really hurting him a little bit. Gave Tamao that easier map, where if Tamao can get the Sableye over the next 2 turns, he just closes out the game. See a Rod come to the hand now with a Boss's Orders finding its way into the Lost Zone. Looks like we're just reloading some energy here. I think it's another Sableye actually in Tamao's hand. So he should be pretty well set and pretty well protected from hand disruption as well if he does go down this line. Have to imagine he's Lost Zoning, Sableyeing this turn. Yep, next Sableye comes down. He gated the Psych Energy so he can pay retreat into the Sableye. Has the backup ready to go. And it's interesting because he has Choruses in his prize cards, so there's definitely a debate here for Tamao to take the 3 prize turn. But also he has to be aware of Iono. So there's also a huge debate to just going for the Barrel KO here. And hoping that it's more difficult for Connor to possibly Iono you. But interestingly enough, because Tamao doesn't have the Psyche in hand, he's still going to take the additional prize cards, which I think is also very reasonable here. He knows his prizes are good. If he gets hit with a Judge, he's happy to have the choruses back into his deck. So it's really only if Connor can find Iono here. See a double turbo and just a knockout. So Connor not able to Iono. And with the extra choruses now picked up from those prize cards, Tamao should have a and Forest Seal Stone. That's going to be a piece to get him closer as well. Nest Ball, yeah, can grab that Drapion. Forest Seal Stone for the Psych Energy. Has the Beach Court. So he can simply get the freedom of retreat and finish off the Barrel. So yeah, that wraps up our first game here for Tamao and Connor. Tamao progressing in the winner's bracket and Arctina finding themselves in the loser's bracket. Interesting game.